Okay, so we're going to get ready to bring up our first speaker. Now, our first speaker is a man that I've been working with for about 3 years. He's an unusual guy because he's made a transformation in his life. Now, he used to be a lawyer and worked for the taxation office. So he used to be on the dark side. So he was one of those he just took your money any way he could. He's been working in the accounting industry for over 25 years. And even though he's in accounting, he also runs a business. So he's a business owner. He's a successful business owner. And he has tips and strategies of how to take accounting and taxation and actually help your business. He's an amazing guy. He used to play a piano. He's slightly related to George Clooney. They look alike. He's a very handsome looking man. So he likes to consider himself Dr. Sexy, Mr. Sexy. Put it up for my main man, Mr. Warren Black. Give it up. Come on, put your hands together. First speaker of the day.
Gosh, Eric, thank you. That was a great introduction. Mr. Sexy, take your money any way I can. They sort of go together, don't they? How's your morning been so far?
Terrific. Good.
Terrific?
Yes.
Tell us how good it was. Say terrific.
Terrific.
That's good.
Fantastic.
Fantastic too. So who enjoyed yesterday? Who got something out of it? Who's ready to already make lots of money?
Woo!
I like it. Now, put your hand up if you're in business right now. I want to get a bit of an idea. Put up your hand up if you're going to be going into business after this weekend. Put your hand up if you don't have a clue. Good, just gives you a bit of an idea as to where everyone's at. Okay, who's heard me speak at the 4-day events on the home study? Okay, who hasn't heard me at all? Oh, quite a few, okay. Yeah, because I normally speak on a number of things to do with asset protection and how to basically make your assets scumbag proof. So hence I put here, accounting for business growth, wild profits while slashing your tax and staying scumbag proof. Who wants to keep the greedy golding scumbags far from your wealth? Put your hand up. I can assure you that as you do business and start to build wealth, you will have scumbags who want a piece of the action. Who's already experienced scumbag governments or people wanting to sue you? Anyone? Yep. Or scumbag bosses, anyone? Or scumbag businesses? Derek put his hand up. It's he works for me. Sit right down now, Mr. Whittaker. Okay. Now, just a quick disclaimer, which as a lawyer and accountant I've got to do. As I said, don't do anything crazy. I'm teaching you enough to be dangerous. That's how I describe it. It's like I describe myself in IT. I know enough to be dangerous. Put me in charge of your IT, your business will collapse. You will have no IT system. It will have viruses, you name it. But I do enough to be dangerous. So likewise, you'll walk away with enough to be dangerous. You'll walk away with enough basic knowledge to walk and have some idea that if I'm starting a business or in my business right now, I'm exposed or I have to structure properly. And that's what I want. I want you to see the problem that you're facing in business and that we all are right now. And believe me, in business right now, if we're not prepared for what can happen, and if we don't see the immediate problem many of us have right now, then we're at serious risk of losing our assets. And I'll be showing you why. Okay, so who am I? As Eric mentioned, I worked with the ATO for 10 years. I was a tax auditor at one stage. I know. But I've come from the dark and I've converted to the light. Hallelujah! Amen! We've got a Potter's House convention next door, actually, so they're a Christian church, so I'm sure they'd be excited to hear this. Okay, so I've been working as a lawyer and accountant now outside of the tax office for about 14 odd years. So one of the things that I'm a big believer in is building business. And the great thing about being a lawyer and accountant is I see clients all the time and I see what makes people wealthy and what doesn't. I regard myself in a privileged position. I've seen hundreds upon thousands of clients walk through my door over the years. And it's interesting to see the formula that works that makes people rich. Who's interested to know that? I see that all the time, seriously. I am very fortunate like that. And many of my own investment strategies I now do and how I build my own business for profits, I just simply follow what my clients are doing. Recently, I found a way to slash certain parts of my business cost by 90% for better service. Who'd be interested in that? I learnt that from one of my clients, a guy who came to see me. I couldn't work out how he was making so much money with so little overheads. I asked him. He told me. So I just did what he did. That's what the rich do. You copy what successful people do. You don't question, you don't try and get an ego. You copy what successful people do. Who's with me? So today I'm hoping to show you a few things and work with some of you moving forward to help you copy and basically start to make profits and actually live the life of your dreams. Live the life that basically we do business for. I don't do business to work 100 hours a week for the rest of my life. You know, I'm doing business to spend more time with my kids. Who's into that? Yeah, absolutely. So a bit of background, I'm a lawyer. One of my things about being a lawyer is one of my newest hobbies this year, and the great thing about now with my business working more automated now, I was in the US for 3 weeks, sightseeing, holidaying around, having a bit of fun recently, and the whole time away my business is turning over, things are happening, everything's working through the system that we've created. It means this year I've been able to do one of my childhood dreams, and I've been going into court fighting cops on speeding fines. Who thinks that's sexy? Yeah. And I actually had a big win in Queensland 3 months ago, but it shocked me so much and went viral on the internet, and I still have people asking me where I challenged the jurisdiction of the police. I claimed I had no jurisdiction in Queensland to hit me for speeding fine, and to my complete shock I won the case. Who thinks that's really cool? I recently went to a country town to help out a friend over in WA, and for a bit of a hobby, he took on a speeding fine case because he's going to lose his licence, he needs it for his job. And this was a tough one. And again, that was where system came in. In the end, I started asking questions. And then as I noticed, as I was reading the paperwork, that the radar camera that they used was different to what was said in the Government Gazette, which supposedly authorised it. So I asked the magistrate in the court, I said, these things are different. The magistrate said, that's a good point. So she goes to the cop, can you prove it's the same? Oh, well, no, we didn't bring any evidence. Okay, case dismissed. Who thinks that's sexy? It's my newest one is I want to fight a parking fine, so I'm about to go to court on one of those. One of my friends has taken on 40 cases just for fighting Queensland, and he's won all of them so far. And so I'm always trying to find new ways out as a lawyer, and I do that with tax now. I've been trying to find new novel ways. And one of the great things is when you know your rights and you have what I call knowledge education and work with the right people, you will start making profits. Do you think that the rich have got really good accountants and lawyers working for them, yes or no? Yes. Kerry Packer, his lawyer was a guy called Neville Coombs, and the stories about Neville Coombs and how he got people out of tax was legendary. One of the stories goes with Neville Coombs that he had a guy come to see him before he worked for Kerry Packer, and basically the guy said to him, look, I have $1 million contract, it's going to send me bankrupt. Can you get me out of it? I've seen 4 lawyers, they can't. Neville Coombs looked at it for 5 minutes, said, good news and bad news. Good news is I can get you out of it. Bad news is I want $10,000 cheque right now before I even tell you. He thought about it, he said, yep, pay the $10,000 cheque, got out of the contract, walked away. Who'd pay $10,000 to save $1 million? So when you slash your tax and you really take that, you will grow your profits, because the secret, and I have a small group of people I help and mentor with wealth and business, and I save it to them. It's so simple. Life is meant to be easy and simple. Who agrees? Who hates complexity? Who hates paperwork? Come on, so the rest of you love paperwork, do you? Who likes complex lives? Who doesn't? I'm the same. To build wealth in business or in life, income less expenses. Cut your expenses or grow your income. Slash your tax, cut your overheads, and you'll grow profits. Start a business on low overheads, and this day and age you'll be surprised with the internet how easy it is to start a business and actually make money pretty much straight away with virtually no overheads. So lawyer, accountant, and having worked with the ATO, as I said, I've seen tax returns, I've worked with clients on numbers and wealth building. And although I've never really practiced as one, I've also, just because I got bored and I was a bit of a nerd, did a financial planning diploma as well. Who likes to study here? It's good, isn't it? I mean, I love education and learning, and I'm a big believer in anything in life you've got to master, and certain things in life like that we have to master if we're going to live a happy, successful life. One of them is money. Who would agree? And sadly, many of us are brought up in a university system that teaches us to go to school, get a job, work away for the rest of our lives, Go to a financial planner. Who's found that it doesn't really work all that well? Anyone? Yeah, that's right. It doesn't work that well. The system is designed to enslave us, to trap us, to take away our freedom, take away our thinking. And one of the things I realised 12 years ago when I was depressed, sitting in an office in a big law firm, a plush office, depressed, hating to get out of bed every morning because I hated my job. I was sick of it. I hated having a boss tell me what to do. I wanted my freedom. Who can relate to me already? Yeah, I hated it. And that was the point I decided I have to learn business and master this. And the problem I found is being trained as a lawyer and accountant, which I thought at first would be an advantage, proved out to be a major disadvantage. Why? Because I was trained to work for other people. And that's the first thing we've got to understand is that mindset issue. So being business means learning the skills of a business owner, and it's like doing a whole new degree at uni. It really is. Who's been in business and knows what I mean? No one teaches you how to, but suddenly when you work for yourself, you're not only doing all the work, but now you have to manage your BES statements, your tax compliance, your overheads, your suppliers, your invoicing systems. You have to know about IT, software. Suddenly, you have to become God. You have to know everything, virtually, to be successful in business. So it's a whole training. I had to get top mentors to help me. Because as well as learning it, you need people who've walked the walk, who can show you and guide you and save your time. So rather than spending 10 years working it out like I did with some things, you can do what I did in 10 years in about 1 or 2 years. Who likes that idea? That's the idea. So the aim of today is to give you a bit of a sneak preview and show you that the dream that you've got to build your business and actually have a lifestyle to be with your kids or do the things you want to do, it's very real in this day and age if you're willing to put the work in, be educated and get the right team around you and really slash your overheads. Because I'm sure we would all agree that who in business has found that tax compliance and BES and pay-as-you-go is one of the biggest killers? Put your hand up. Cash flow killer. Because you've got your BES statement, you've got your pay-as-you-go tax, you've got your GST. Suddenly the BES bill comes, you've got $10,000 to pay, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just spent the money on buying a new property or buying this. And then the tax office is sending you notices to chase you. Who's been through all that? Yeah. Many of us have at some level. So it's very important to master this and know how to really keep our taxes minimal. One of the ways I found to slash all that kind of stuff, and then you're dealing with unfair dismissal laws. And if you employ someone in Australia, they're wanting huge money for not always much output. Who's experienced that? A lot of that you can actually master just by, there's so many things you can do. So like I mentioned, 22 years experience, and I've worked with quite a number of people to coach in business to grow profits and just slash their tax. Got my 4 boys, one of the reasons I love business, so I can spend more time with them. The great thing is now, because our whole business is virtually online, we're able to, many days now, at 3 o'clock, 3:30, I just go and play football with my boys. They're obsessed about football right now. Even in the off-season, they're practicing an hour and a half every day football because they want to be AFL players, my twins. Is that committed or what? Yeah. Yes, so it's great. So, of course, you know, I was an okay footballer when I was growing up, but my body type meant I'd always get sandwiched and get injured. So, whereas they, fortunately, they've now bulked up a bit more than I did. So, problem in Australia we've got is too much tax, and that's what we've got to really nail in business. And I can tell you now, you won't succeed in business if you cannot master the tax issue. If you can't master and keep your tax to a minimum and know the system, and the secret is those words. You know, I'd write them down. Know the system. You've got to get accountants and get knowledge to know the system because it's a game. And if you go and I always say this, if you did everything, and I mean everything, but every accountant or every lawyer or every rule, you would be absolutely having constant obsessive compulsive disorder. Who knows what I mean? I mean, how many laws have we got? Like jaywalking. And, you know, who's jaywalked before? Anyone? Yeah, exactly. That's breaking the law. I mean, we are obsessed with regulation and laws, aren't we? I mean, we have a country obsessed with it. And part of it is knowing what laws you really shouldn't play around with and what laws you can have a bit of fun with. What laws you know how to play the game. And I've learnt this. Going to court this year has taken me to a whole new level because I've discovered with speeding fines they're easy to get out of on many occasions. He thinks that's really cool. I probably had about 10 speeding fines for myself or different people, which I've got out of over the last year and a half, either in court or just by knowing how to write my letter to them. Who thinks that's pretty cool? Same with taxes. Just recently I went through a tax audit of a couple of my companies, and I must admit, I was like, how's this going to go? And one of the things that I realised was there's a lot of techniques I teach people I work with on how to deal with a tax audit. And one of the things I did is about taking back your power in business. Who here, if you got a tax audit notice tomorrow, would be like, oh dear, who'd be scared? Put your hand up. Who'd be even a little bit apprehensive? I think most of us, wouldn't we? The funny thing was, I never lost 1 second sleep. I actually got it. When I got it, I actually burst out laughing. Because I always suspected one day, because I'm on stage teaching, that I'd get a full audit. And I was more waiting for when it would happen. And they were auditing me back 5 years, which meant a full intense audit. I actually burst out laughing. And I actually told Derek and the staff, I said, hey, guess what? I'm going to be audited. And they go, how are you feeling? I said, oh, it's funny. And I said, it's a good chance for me to practice some of the things I teach my clients. That's how I saw it, as a game, as a bit of fun. And so rule number 1, I was very courteous to the tax office auditor. I rang him up, talked to him about his life, build rapport. And then the next thing I said to him was, look, you've asked me for all my records for the last 5 years. That's going to cost me a fortune to get you the records and in time. How about I just drop them all off to you and you get your staff to photocopy them? Who thinks that's cheeky and sexy? He said straight away, oh, that's fine, yeah, okay. And I did. All my clients complained about the costs and the time. So I just said to him, look, I don't have the time to do this. Do you mind if I do that? So I was courteous about it. I just said, and if he said to me, no, no way, I would have been like, fine. But I thought, well, I want to ask. I said, look, I really don't have the time to do this. So I said, can you get, and he goes, look, I understand you're busy. Yeah, we'll get our staff to do it. So I had dropped them all off. They photocopied everything to me, even organised some of my folders better for me and gave them back to me. Who thinks that's pretty cool? And yeah, it was actually, so that was actually quite good. So got him on side, had a good talk, was quite open with things I was doing. He asked me what I was doing on certain things. I just went through, and a couple of them I said, look, I know you've got a different view with me on that, but if you want to take me on that, I'll fight you. I'm a lawyer, you know. But I said, I'll fight you on it because I think you're wrong. And I said, in fact, I know you're wrong on that one. And he burst out laughing, and he said, well, I've got a different view to you, but you're entitled to have a different view. I got notified about 3 weeks ago, and they said, no further action, we're not doing anything. Who thinks that's pretty cool? I know a lot of it was just simply because I knew the system and how to deal with it. I had a situation with another government department 3 years ago where they had a full-on investigation announced into me, and I knew with this government department that they were quite vicious. And so I thought, how am I going to handle this one? So what I did was I got together, I thought, look, having worked in the tax office, I thought the last thing you want to see is lots of paperwork when you want to go home and see your family. So I walked in just before deadline with 42 lever arch files full of documents in a wheelbarrow, and we dumped them on their desk and left. And we even double photocopied some of the documents to deliberately make it more scary than it was. So we actually double photocopied everything. And I never heard from him again. This was 3 years ago. So it's a game. And I learnt this from talking to a senior prosecutor of that department who told me that the very thought of 42 files being dumped on their desk is a nightmare for them, so I made sure I gave them their worst nightmare. So in other words, my rule is, if you audit me, I'll comply, but I want to make you earn it. And funny enough, because most people don't do that, that's what they rely on. So likewise, when you realise that you're tax planning, you don't need to do anything illegal. You don't need to sign up to any dodgy scheme. Who's glad about that? You can do everything above board, and you can absolutely slash your tax and protect your assets just by knowing the game and working with a team of people who basically work for you and don't work for the ATO. Anyone here sometimes feel like your accountant is working for the ATO, not for you? Anyone? That's a common complaint I get. Okay, so too much tax. That's what the average Australian is paying right now in tax. Who's shocked by that? 69%. And that was 4 years ago. I reckon it's more now with the carbon tax. 48% of businesses go broke directly or indirectly due to tax. That's like income tax, pay as you go, BES, even the super compliance, that kind of stuff. The fact you've got to pay certain super and that. It's a lot, isn't it? So who's already starting to see, but if you don't master this, you'll go broke. Very good chance you'll go broke. 80% of small business goes broke in the first 5 years. In the next 5 years, of the remaining 20%, another 80% goes broke again. So only 4% of businesses are still there after 10 years. Which one are you going to be? The average small business spends 1 day per week in government compliance alone. Who thinks that's decidedly unsexy? As long as you don't think I'm decidedly unsexy, I'll be very unhappy. Okay, let me just show you straight away, who here would love to get an investment that can double your money straight away? Okay, I will show you right now, if you invest $100,000 at 10 years, how you structure yourself will determine how much money you have ahead of you to free up your life for your family, okay? If you basically do nothing about your tax planning and on a big income paying full tax, that's what you'll get after 10 years. That's not bad, but that's what you'll get. If you can cut your tax by corporate structuring to 30%, you immediately jump up by 50% return. Who would love to get a 50% return straight away for minimal investment? We all would, wouldn't we? If you can cut tax to 15% through super, that's what you've got. So you more than doubled your money straight away. And if you pay 0% tax, who wants to know how to do that? I was going to say come to Fiji. $1.378 million. That's 3 times as much. Who would love a 200% return straight away? So you can see that if you master the tax game, who's up to see already you're going to be well in front. That's a whole new property you can buy. That's an extra couple of properties. Who would agree? Just in tax savings, am I mastering it? My rule in business is I have a few simple rules I do to grow my wealth. And one of the great ones to do is pay yourself first. And I mean that. Who here does not always pay themselves first in savings? Be honest. Okay, I make that a golden rule with any clients I mentor. So if you don't do that, I can't help you. You may as well not waste your money with me. Because if you don't pay yourself first, then it comes from a core value system that says everyone else is more important than me. And by paying yourself first, you will start to shift that on many levels. I never used to pay myself first. I used to make a lot of money and I ended up paying debtors and creditors and a tax office and someone else. And eventually one day I woke up and realised I earned a lot of money and didn't have a lot to show for it. And when I changed and started paying myself first, I couldn't believe the difference. But it didn't just affect me in my wealth building. It gave me the confidence to go to court because suddenly I was valuing myself first. And whereas before I get a speeding fine and my mind would say I should pay this, my mind was saying, well, hang on, should I pay this? Why should I pay my money out? Why should I pay these guys $75 for doing 78 in a 70 zone when I was driving perfectly safely and some stupid camera that was put there behind the bush on a perfectly straight road to make money was doing it? My whole mentality switched, but said, I come first. Who likes that? My kids come first. So suddenly it's like, well, hang on a sec. If I don't pay myself first, I can't take my kids to Disneyland next year. Excuse me, man. Who knows what I mean by that? Whereas you might be paying all your creditors, you might be paying everybody else, and they might be happy. But what I've actually found is when you pay everybody else first, everyone ends up hating you anyway. Your family hates you because they don't go away. The creditors hate you because often you fall behind on your debts. The tax office hates you because they reckon you should pay you more money. Who knows what I mean here? I found that when I pay myself first, it's amazing. The number of times now I've actually told creditors, they've chased me for money, I said, I'm not paying you right now. Why not? Well, I can't. Oh, well, I can't right now. The reason I can't is because I just put some extra, I don't tell you this to them, but I just put some extra money into buying a property in America, for example. So that comes first because it was a good cash flow opportunity. So I came first. But I will pay you in the next 3 weeks. And I do. The funny thing is now, everyone who deals with me gets paid, and everyone's basically happy, my family's happy, and my staff are happy because they all get paid well too. So the key in business, if you want to succeed in business, pay yourself first. Then you'll find the next thing is make sure you pay your basic lifestyle and then make sure you pay the tax man. Okay, so you do need to make sure you pay your tax. It's very important because you fall behind in your tax, they're the most ruthless creditor. But like I said, know the game and you can slash it. Look at 20 years here. 841,000. You double your money just simply by using corporate structuring over 20 years. Who thinks that's already pretty darn sexy? I mean, that's huge. Who would be quite happy with $1.6 million in 20 years' time? At least that would give you some security for your future. What if you had almost $3 million in that period of time? Who's now even happier again? 5.3 million, who's even more happier? You see, tax planning and getting the tax down can absolutely escalate and soil your wealth. Who's getting this already? Working with the right accountant and team is critical. Richard Branson, Kerry Packer, Alan Bond. Alan Bond, I mean, again, like Kerry Packer had Neville Coombs. Alan Bond used a guy called Tony Oates. And Tony Oates, I know him because my aunt used to deal with Tony Oates and said he was the most brilliant tax lawyer accountant she'd ever met. He virtually got rid of their tax every year legally, and Alan Bond, she said, stole him, paid him an exclusive retainer, and she lost him. But you all know who Alan Bond is, don't you? Yeah, so Alan Bond, basically, these guys know the value of the right team when you're building wealth. You're absolutely critical. And they're not afraid to pay good money to work with the right people to make absolutely sure they're not paying tax and that their assets are safe. I mean, I've been through the highs and lows. I've had great success. I've had spectacular failures. You know, I had a bad business failure some years ago, and one of the things that saved me from complete ruin was I was properly structured. If I'd been completely structured, I would have had to declare bankruptcy. I would have been wiped out. Because I was properly structured, it was my get out of jail free card to start again. So being set up properly from day one can give you a second chance if you stuff up, and the chances are, statistics show in business, at some stage you probably will. One of the things I learned from one of my top business mentors is and this is worth writing down, run your business and your finances as if it's in crisis. So always run your business and personal finances like you are in crisis. Because if you don't, at some stage you said you will be in crisis. Always run your... Who's found that when you're in a recession or tight spot, you become much more vigilant with your finances? Put your hand up. Where who tends to find, being honest, that when you've got lots of money coming in a good run, you tend to get slack and spend up and have fun? That's right. The global financial crisis basically sorted out the men from the boys, or the in business, or the women from the girls. Basically, in other words, who was serious about business? Those who had poor systems and were just making money because of the boom went out of business. Those who were willing to reinvent themselves made money. So it's critical to get that part right. The other problem is the fear of losing assets. Who here right now knows that their marriage or relationship would be severely affected if you lost all your money tomorrow? Who knows that right now you have some level of stress if you lost all your money tomorrow? Put your hand up. Absolutely. Who would love to be completely scumbag-proof, wealth-proof, so that your wealth cannot be touched? Put your hand up. Who here right now owns a car and has car insurance? Put your hand up. Anyone here owns a car and does not? Yeah, one person. Two. My guess is you've probably got cheap cars, am I right? Yeah. Usually cheaper cars. But why do we have car insurance? Because we're going to crash our car next week and we know it by psychic prediction? Do we? No, why do we have car insurance? Security if you have an accident? Yeah, that's right. So who wants your wealth to be completely safe? Because the secret is, when we're building our wealth, is that we don't know what's going to happen to us tomorrow, do we? In business, you may think you're doing everything right, and like what happened to one of my clients. True story. He'd made a few million, was very happy. Suddenly, he gets a notice from the government they're investigating him for breaking the spam laws. Now, who's heard of those? And it all went back to before the spam laws came in, he'd harvested some names off the internet. Government went after him, ended up suing him or prosecuting him and getting a $4.5 million fine out of him. Because the government decided, and the courts decided, to make an example of him in Western Australia to scare people off. The good news was he was properly structured in companies and trusts, and guess how much he ended up paying? $100,000 in settlement. $100,000 was all he paid. Kept his business, went on as normal. He just wound up his company and he killed it and went on with his business. Who thinks that's pretty sexy? So very important. Stress. The failed solution is what I call blindly trusting a professional without having some level of knowledge in what you're doing. The successful solution is learn the law and basically understand how the law works. And structuring your business properly, and like I mentioned, dealing with the right advisors. So in summary, what we said today is really paying yourself first, accounting for your growth, and being properly structured in your business. And working with the right team is so critical. And if you're not in business and you want to get started in it, again, from day one, working with the right people to start your business and build it. One of my favourite quotes actually about ignorance is from one of the great kings in English common law history. Knowledge is power. Who would agree? Who thinks that Kerry Packer and Richard Branson know a little bit more than all of us here? Absolutely. So critical that, you know, we work with the right people and build this. So we've gone through a lot and I've given you a bit of a foundation. In my remaining time, I'm just going to be touching on a little bit more on asset protection and tax minimisation. And I've already gone into that, but really there's a few simple rules that I follow that are so basic that it doesn't take a lot to explain this to you. And if you get this, you'll straight away see a change in your business results. So in protecting your assets in business, these are some of the things now that we're dealing with in people putting as disclaimers on their products. Do not eat on an Apple iPod in some places. This product is not intended for use as a dental drill. Who thinks that's funny? I like that one. This costume is not suitable for flying on a Superman costume in America. I mean, I've seen some pretty outrageous cases. I mean, one of my non-favourite or funniest one, but actually true case, about a woman who sued McDonald's because she basically tripped over coffee on the floor and injured herself. McDonald's was very surprised considering that the woman had thrown the coffee at her boyfriend 30 seconds earlier in an argument. So she spilt the coffee, slipped on it and sued him and won. Believe me, just one thing I want to mention here. This is speaking a little bit from experience. I mean, one of the things now is you'll be about to see exactly the statistics of what really happens in business. On average, in the eastern states now, you're going to be sued 3 times in your lifetime. Who's shocked by that? Now, keep in mind, a lawsuit doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up in court. The vast majority are actually settled out of court. But the fact is, the moment you have wealth, you're a what? You're a target. You are. And think of it logically. If you have been injured or your child's been injured, and people often say it's so bad people sue, but let me ask you something. Let's say that you've got a child who's very sick and you've got the opportunity to sue someone to get money that could make your child better. Would you do it? Yeah, I think many of us would. This happened to me. A lady sued me for giving bad advice, and at the time I was completely mystified because I was like, but I gave a disclaimer telling her I don't do family law. She sued me because I gave capital gains tax advice, but I failed to consider family law. Now, I clearly told her in the letter, I don't do family law, go see a family lawyer. So when we had the mediation hearing, I asked her why she was suing me. Her exact words was, oh, look, I was just hoping to get some money because my daughter's very sick and I can't sue the family lawyers anymore because I'm out of time. That was her exact words to me, completely serious. She said, I'm suing you because I'm hoping to get some money for my daughter. And she's a nice lady. I actually felt sorry. I went in there really angry and really annoyed. By the end, I actually felt very sorry for her. And it was clear that she was desperate because her daughter was very sick. She needed 50 grand for some medical treatment, and basically she couldn't sue the family lawyer who'd given her bad advice. So she said the tax lawyer instead. I had another situation where someone issued me with a lawsuit. So I've actually had I've had 2 times already, so in my lifetime. And the second one was a guy who sued me again for bad advice on offshore investing in business. And I was like, but my advice was sound. In the end, I found out why, because they were very aggressive towards me, but finally I found out from one of their friends, and it was because they'd lost a whole lot of money in a big investment. They were angry about the whole thing, so they were just suing every single person connected with the transaction. And I mean everyone. So they'd issued 5 lawsuits against all different people. And of course, because I was a lawyer, I got issued one too. Now, that one, it was such a nuisance, I ended up settling with them by paying them back their fees, just because simply the amount of time it was taking of me. But the reality is, in business, And in life, that's more common. So most lawsuits are unfounded. And what has helped me with my lawsuits to date is there have been a few cases I know where people who may have been tempted have not, simply because they know that if they look at me on paper, I'm a penniless bum. So if you search me right now, I'm broke. Who wants to be broke on paper? That's the aim of the game. So if you're broke on paper, people won't take your money. Pretty clever, eh? And that's what we do with clients. I can tell you now, working as a lawyer, this is what happens. Let's say, let's pick on someone here. So what's your name? I knew you loved me for that. What's your name? Deborah. Hi, Deborah. Let's say that someone wants to sue Deborah because they're angry at her for business. Do you do business, Deborah? Not yet, but you're going to be. That's good. Yes, they sue Deborah. The first thing, Deborah, they'll do is they'll look at your name and search you on the property titles. They'll search you on the shares and register. They'll do a thorough asset search to find out what you own. If they find out that you don't own anything, guess what they're going to do? 99% of the time they're going to go away. 99%. I can tell you now, I've worked in a lot of liquidations and insolvency where companies go broke. And I've had liquidators, they'll tell me straight out, who are my friends. They'll say, before you put the company in liquidation, make sure your client's properties are absolutely chocked up with second mortgages. In other words, make sure there's so much debt on their assets or that they're all in trusts, because they said the moment we see that, this, again, what did I say? What's the rule here? Is it the law or the game? What's the rule? The game. Liquidators get paid between $15,000 to $25,000 to do a liquidation. Now, do they make their money by spending less time or more time? What do you think? Less time. So do they want to spend a lot of time on your job or not too much time? Not too much time. Now, this is why people get so disgruntled with the system, because crooks get away with it, because they know this stuff I'm telling you. But the liquidator just sees the case, and unless someone is willing to chip in to go further with you, even if they find you've been doing the dodgiest things under the planet, they're going to do their report, make recommendations, and move on. Businesses regularly do I've seen businesses do some unbelievably criminal stuff and just walk away because they knew the system. Now, I don't encourage that, of course, but what I am telling you is that if your assets are covered with second mortgages and you're well protected, if your business is in a structure, if all your assets are owned in structure, guess what will happen if you go broke or someone's trying to pursue you? Chances are you'll shield them off. It's like kryptonite with Superman. You'll keep him off you. It's very powerful stuff, what I'm telling you here. And it's one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and even most accountants will say, oh, that structure doesn't work. That doesn't work. No, 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 no. I've had liquidators tell me, even if it's the dodgiest second mortgage under the planet, just put it on there. He thinks that's cool. Yeah. Recently, I had a client who I was about to put in liquidation because he'd gone broke for tax debt. And I actually went to see the liquidator, and the liquidator was a friend of mine. And the exact words he said to me was, before you put in liquidation, he said, this guy does own a couple of properties outright. Well, we're going to go for him. The creditors will see that and they'll go for it. They said, just tell them to go and put a dodgy second mortgage on it. And the moment we see that, the creditors probably can't be bothered and they'll move on. Who finds that decidedly sexy knowledge to have? Who now thinks I'm decidedly sexy? Worth a shot. Sorry. It's early in the morning, you know. And us lawyers have got to do something to keep ourselves amused. Gosh, we're looking at paper all day. New South Wales is number 2 in the world and Queensland number 5 with lawsuits, to give you an idea. So knowing the system, I cannot stress this enough to you, know the game. Like I said, even the last 2 years, I've seen more of it because I've been involved in a few more liquidations with clients, and I'm actually horrified. I see clients racking up debts in companies, then putting it in liquidation, obvious insolvent trading, which is a criminal offence, and nothing happens. Why? Because the liquidator puts the report, tells ASIC it was insolvent trading, ASIC says we don't have the resources, the creditors say, oh, we're not going to put in 100 grand to the liquidator, because liquidator will say, I need 100 grand in my trust account to continue, because they're not basically going to do work for free. So it's just, you can basically protect your assets without a huge amount of cost. Who's happy to hear that? Just by knowing the game. You don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. You know, for as little as $3,000, $5,000, you get, you know, upwards, depending on the situation, you can pretty much secure your wealth and make sure that no scumbag's going to come near it. You can't rely on insurance. That's the second reason. I mean, Sure, a lot of people say, well, Warren, I'm covered by business insurance. Do insurers get paid, make their money from paying out your claims or denying them? We see the claims denied all the time. People who thought insurance would cover them, they find a technicality in the clause. There's plenty of them I could tell you, but I don't have time today. Governments want your money. We see that with taxes going up all the time. Recently, in the paper, just 2 days ago, there was an article in one of the Melbourne papers about the government suing a guy for millions of dollars because he basically spoke out against utilities and power bills and a whole lot of other systems. The government sued him for defamation. Totally serious. I mean, governments are one of the worst when it comes to basically going after. Like I mentioned, 48% of business goes broke in some way due to governments. So your biggest threat is government. If you're not protected properly and know how to deal with government issues and regulators, you will go broke. Who thinks that Warren Buffett and Donald Trump and all that know how to deal with regulators? They do. Andrew Forrest, when ASIC went after him, one of the richest guys in Australia, they asked him, how did you cope with the 5-year investigation? He said, slept like a baby. Slept like a baby. Why? It was a game to him. When you know how to deal with regulators, a lot of the time it's just a dog with a very big bark. I'm not saying you don't respect them. Realise that, you know, I'm very big on complying and doing things within reason, but at the same time, some of our compliance has gone completely insane. So it's knowing the system. Everybody else wants to crack at you too. We live in a culture now where responsibility has broken down. So in business, remember, someone deals with your company and they'll basically sue you if they get a bad product or they perceive it that way or think there's some way to get money out of you. A number of internet marketers have gone through that. Stephen Pearce, who's heard of him? Yeah, very big internet marketer in the States. He virtually got wiped out. Frank Kern, who's heard of him? He got wiped out. Both times he got wiped out because governments went after him. On certain technicalities, bankrupted them. So now these guys are very big on promoting asset protection in what they're doing. And by not structuring properly, you miss out and you'll get out of jail free card. And the good news is when you use companies and trusts in structuring your business, you've pretty much got yourself a get out of jail free card if things go wrong. You get a second chance. And considering that a very large proportion of businesses go broke in their first attempt, who would agree that's a pretty useful thing to have? Okay. I'm going to give you 7 quick golden rules to keep your business safe. And I'm going to move through these quite quickly today. 1 is get your business structured properly. And I'm not going to teach you all the intricacies of them, but companies and family trust is basically the way to go. Make sure you got the right people to be your company directors and shareholders, and I'll explain that a bit more in a minute. But get your business structured properly. Whatever you do, if you're a sole trader, put a structure in place. Never trade as a sole trader. You are asking to go broke. If you're sued as a sole trader, you will lose all assets pretty much in your own name. Not only that, but your credit rating is screwed. For 7 years, you're either not getting loans or paying 5% extra interest. Rule number 2, make sure your personal assets are safe. I've given you the clue already. Second, mortgages. You don't have to transfer assets into trusts and structures and spend a fortune. Just by using second mortgages and a bit of fine-tuning, you can make sure your house, your assets remain safe and probably keep your marriage or your relationship in place. Because most marriages or relationships break up because of losing houses or finances. Couples, decide your roles. In other words, if you've got a couple, let's say with me and my former wife, for example, we're still very close. When we work together, and still do to a large degree, she doesn't work in business, I do. Who's at risk of being sued, me or my ex-wife? Me. So who should have controlled most of the assets in our marriage? No, my ex-wife. Who would agree? Because she's not going to be sued, whereas I can be. So who should control the trusts or control the assets? My wife, yeah. Who should control... Sorry?
Don't forget she's your ex.
Yes, we're still very close though, but yes. But if I was married, that's what we'd do. So who here is married right now? In a relationship, that's right. So appoint one of you to be in charge of the assets and appoint one of you to hold the assets. And people ask me, what if the family court gets involved? Well, that's fine because it doesn't matter how you structure it, the family court have got powers to override it. So this is not about family court. It's more about structuring yourself to make sure. So if you're a couple and one of you is more at risk than the other, make sure the one who's not at risk owns the assets and controls it. Is that clear? 4th one is single people, shield yourself. Use companies and family trusts. Even people say, well, look, Warren, I don't have a partner. Doesn't matter. If you've got companies and family trusts, the moment you have an entity in place, you have now saved yourself a greater likelihood of being sued. You'll scare 99% of lawsuits off straight away. Use multiple structures. Now, in simple terms, what I mean by multiple structures is this. If you're doing business and investment, don't have everything in the same structure. So let's say you're running a business, like let's say I'm running a law firm business. Should I own my houses in the same structure as I run my business? No, why not? Because someone can sue me and then bang, any assets I own in there is gone. Anything. So basically, I make sure my properties are held in a separate structure and make sure my shares and investments are held in a separate structure. Do you understand that? Get that? Yep, so keep them separate. So if someone sues your business, your assets are safe. If someone sues you with your property, with your investment properties like a tenant, your business and your shares remain safe. If you have a family home in your own name, as most people do, have a second mortgage that puts so much debt on the home that anyone looking to sue you wouldn't even waste their time because they know they will get no money at all out of you. It's a simple formula and not expensive to do when you know what you're doing. Who's glad to hear that? Very simple. I'm into simplicity, believe me. I hate complexity. I hate paperwork. I hate spending too much time on things I don't need to. Use what I call the McDonald's strategy. Now explain that. That's a very powerful strategy for business. Again, my rule is do what the rich do and copy them. What do McDonald's do? Let's say you're running a business and your business, you want to grow it because the idea of building a business, as you'll learn more this weekend, is to grow it to sell it, okay? Exit. So you want to build your business and sell it off. So you want to build value in your branding. However, let's just say that you're running a business, you've made a $5 million business and somebody sues your business. What's going to happen to all your branding and everything and if you lose? You lose a lot, don't you? Now, if you sued McDonald's tomorrow and you won, do you think that McDonald's would lose their whole business? No. Why? Because they separated their structuring and risk everywhere. So let's say the McDonald's brand name would be held, I'm pretty sure it's Netherlands, Antilles. All the branding is owned over here. Google and Facebook do this, for example. Google and Facebook run their businesses through Ireland. I mean, they own their IP and their intellectual branding in another structure. I mean, every country they do businesses has a different structure. If you sued Google or Facebook, you get nothing, pretty much, except a bit of money in their entity over there. But all their branding is owned somewhere else. They pay 12% tax using Ireland. Who thinks that's sexy? eBay use Switzerland pay about, I think it's 10% or whatever else. So these big companies all know this stuff. They all do it. So the IP is owned in one structure. So you say, well, Warren, that's great. How does it apply to me? Let's say that you're just a simple mortgage broker, but you're going to build a business in mortgage broking. And you're going to build a branding around, like, I use Mortgage Choice. But Mortgage Choice, I know for a fact, they own the name Mortgage Choice and all the value in that in one structure, and then they actually run their cash flow in another company. Why? If someone sues them over here, where's all the money held? Over here. Here's another one for you. Let's say that you own a commercial property, so you run a business premises. If your business premises is held here, will you lose it? Yes or no? So why not own your business premises in another entity over here, rent it over to your business entity? If someone sues you, are you going to lose your business premises? No. It's what I call the cookie jar strategy, is another name for it. And that came out of the fact that with my children, they used to steal all my organic gluten-free cookies. And I used to come buy them, go to the jar, and it'd all be gone. So what I did was built a second jar, hid all my gluten-free cookies up there, and put a second cookie jar, which I put cookies for the kids. So the kids would raid that one, but the real cookie jar was hidden away. So it was a very good asset protection strategy for my cookies. That's right. Again, who thinks that's sexy? So another good strategy. And the other one is get bloodline estate planning, which means make sure that your wills are set up to stop children of your kids, or sorry, your children's partners getting a share of your assets when you die, because 99% of you with your wills right now, that would happen. Okay, so there are 7 golden rules. So as I'm pretty much now coming to an end, what I'm going to cover now is I've talked to you about tax planning, and I've alluded to this already with my structuring. I'm just going to make a few quick points before I finish on your business tax. The biggest secret to income splitting, or to slashing your tax, is income splitting. So finding a way, if you're earning a high income or high profits, to split your income among various people or split it into a company. So for example, if your business earns $300,000 and you earn it all, you'll be paying back 40% tax. If you can give some to your partner, some into a company at 30%, some into a self-managed super fund at 15%, before you know it, you've got more capital available to build wealth. And here's one point to consider, and one thing I'm doing in my own investment strategy right now. Let's just say that because a lot of people don't like superannuation, but US property, for example, you might buy that for the long term. So let's say you buy a number of US properties. Now, what you would do is you buy them in self-managed super. They earn you cash flow of anything between, say, 10 to 20% per annum, depending on the property. That's what I'm doing right now. I have them in my super fund. I hold them until I'm age 60. By then, they've all gone up in value, presumably. They're all producing great cash flow. They're more than paid themselves off. I can sell all the properties off tax-free and immediately have a pension to set me up for life. Who thinks it's a good strategy? Or you can own your business premises in there, hold it till retirement, sell it tax-free when you finish your business off. And you got suddenly $1 million, $500,000 tax-free. So very important to know these laws and use these things and understand the power of income splitting, and also knowing the structures to use. And again, I don't have time to go into this, and in our consults with clients over this weekend, or who are going to see us, we go through this in more detail and we show you how the structures can apply to your business. For companies, you can reduce your tax to 30%, and as you can see, that can double your wealth, or at least increase it by 50% just by having more cash available for you to compound. We recently discovered a strategy to buy our properties overseas, which virtually tax-free in that country, by using a very clever technique, which we're still working on, but that will enable us to buy more properties. Family trusts, splitting income, controlling not owning your assets. Family trusts are wonderful vehicles to run a business in, and if you're not using a company or family trust, you're not protected and you're paying too much tax. I will promise you that. So get a trust. Get a company if you don't have one. If you've got one, make sure it's done right. See your accountant and make sure it's done right. If you're not 100% confident in your accountant, see a specialist like us. We work with accountants all the time because many of our clients are quite happy to deal with existing accountants, but they know that their accountants need help, and they need help. So they consult us to get a plan in place and get their business structures looking absolutely pristine so no one can touch it and pay minimum tax. And self-managed super funds, buying your business premises in your super fund, as I've already mentioned there, at 0% tax, which you can legally do. Just one other thing I want to mention before I round off here, and that's paying expenses for pre-tax dollars in your business. One of the greatest blessings or benefits of a business is being able to slash your tax by paying your expenses of pre-tax dollars. A good example for me is I love travelling. Who loves travelling here? I've always loved it. I travel basically now, and because I travel all the time with seminars, like go to America, most of my travel is completely 100% tax deductible. Because I travel, I do what I enjoy doing, then I might go away for a couple of days. Like I might go, when I was in America, I went to visit a couple of places, had some clients over there, saw them. Went to another place, had some properties to see, looked there. Went to another town, again, saw clients over there, and then went sightseeing. So pretty much, I love travelling because every time I travel, as I say it, I don't have any expenses to pay. That's how I see it. Why? Because it gets paid for from the business, tax deductible. I don't have any food bills because effectively, as I see it, when I'm away for a week on business, I don't have any food bills. The business pays my bills and makes it for me. So literally, you can move, when you know what you're doing with the right accountants, you can move so many expenses through your business. The rich truly do earn, spend, and then pay tax in business. When you're not in business, or if you're not using your business right, you'll be earning, paying tax, and then spending. Who does that right now? Who wants to earn, then spend, then pay tax? You'll grow your wealth so fast when you understand and know how to build a system. You'll slash your expenses. And just quickly on business growth, which I'm just going to make a mention. I said this before about cutting your business expenses by up to 90%. One of the things we do with our clients now who are more serious about business, we can show you ways to do that. And we have done some stuff this year that have absolutely accelerated our profits like no tomorrow. And we've done this by simply using systems that are so simple and so cost effective that anyone can do it, but has slashed our expenses, increased our staff at less cost. Who's interested already? So increased our staff who are available to us, and we've cut our costs significantly in doing it. Right now, I've just with one of my functions to do some in our business to be able to do more back-end administration work. We've been using techniques which, again, have cut that particular expense by 80% just by using outsourcing and a few other things just on back end. So there's a lot of things you can do, and it's knowing how to do it properly. And a lot of this scares people, but really in this day and age of internet and with the simplicity of systems now being created, I truly believe anyone can run a business mainly from home and be able to make a good profit and a good living and keep building it. When I was in America, my whole business now virtually is paperless, runs from online. I don't need to be in my office. I only go to my office now to see staff and have a physical presence. Okay. So now, who's learned a few things today? Okay, so now, next question is, we've talked today about protecting your assets, slashing and minimising your tax, and about growing your business, and how we can do that. So, who would agree that you want to see the experts that basically the rich deal with? Who wants to do that? What we're offering this weekend is this. Obviously, I'm a big believer in you date before you get married. Who would agree with that? So what we're offering over these next few days is free, basically, consultations with myself and Derek up the back. Derek, just put your hand up. So Derek's going to be basically available along with myself, and we're going to be seeing people over the course of the weekend. And it gives you a chance to talk to us and show us your business or your financial and see how we can help you. Or if you're going into business, how we can structure you or help you grow your profits or start a business successfully. Who's interested in that? So what we're doing is it gives you a chance to talk to us, show us what you're doing, and one is for you to make sure that we can help you and for us to make sure we can help you. Because we have a very certain type of client. We can't help everyone. The reality is, I'm very much these days, we deal with clients who are serious, clients who want to structure properly, who've realised there's a problem, want to keep your wealth safe, want to get your taxes right down and actually start to build lifestyle. So what we're going to be doing now is taking appointments over the weekend. Now there's a couple of options you've got to do. You go and book for a time and take a fact find to complete it. We also have what's called a QR code. Who's heard of that? Yep, so your mobile app. So you can go and scan your mobile and get the fact finder and do it online with us before you see us. So whichever you prefer. If you're a digi, you can do that. If you prefer to just fill out the paperwork, you can do that. So who should see us? Basically, if you know your business is not 100% safe, i.e. you'd lose it all tomorrow, come and have a talk to us at least and just see what we can do for you. If you're presently trading as a sole trader or in a partnership, as I said, a big no-no, definitely whether you see us or see someone, you need to do something about that. If you're sick and tired of struggling to make a profit and want an easier way to do it, anyone in that position? Yep. If you're frustrated with your accountant and believe you're paying far too much tax in your business, anyone experiencing that right now? Yeah, a few of us here. If you're crying out for a mentor to get you results in your business and free up your time. Okay. So look, thank you very much. Who at least enjoyed the speeding fine, if nothing else? Thank you very much. Just go up the back and we'll help you.